Welcome back to What's Not Sport. Another week of my unprofessional opinion. We're getting back into a good routine. It's a new setup. If you can see, hopefully I got both cameras working. That'll be awesome. Not sure how it will go, but fingers crossed. I've got, yeah, as you can see, if you're watching the video, new setup, really exciting. I want to upgrade it every week, so you'll slowly all see that process as well, which will be absolutely awesome. Um, that's to start it. Sorry about hitting the mic a little bit. I'm just getting used to this new little setup. But yeah, I'm really excited for today. We're going to dive into a bit of a recap of the AFL, and then I'm going to share my tips for next week for it. Go over the NRL and then talk about a few things within the NRL, and then what we're looking at next week, and then also finish it off with having a look at what's going on in the world of the sport, well, in Australia. So enjoy the podcast. At the end, I want to announce a new segment I'll be doing next week. Hopefully, it's inspired. I wouldn't say taken, maybe a little bit by the Johns family podcast, like Matty Johns, Jack Johns, and Cooper Johns, and I'll talk about it a bit more at the end of the pod. So hopefully I'll be able to do that next week. So yeah, let's kick it off. I want to start with the AFL recap. So this week we had Freo versus Collingwood play. Collingwood got the win there. It was an 83-90 to 97, so quite dominant by Collingwood over Freo. Then we had St Kilda versus Carlton. Carlton had a convincing win, so they're finding some good form. The Blues, so 62-77 win. So that's about two and a bit goals close to. We then had Demons versus Hawks. Hawks having a convincing win, showing why they're so high up on the ladder at the moment and that they are a real threat at the moment. We then had Essendon versus Swans. Essendon got a win in the narrow game, 71 to 63. We then had the Gold Coast Suns versus Doggies, another close game. Gold Coast got the win there. Really good stuff coming out from the Suns. Had Port versus Adelaide, the Crows, another very close game, only 5 points in it, 84 to 89. We then had Richmond versus West Coast, also very close game, 81 to 79, only 2 points in it. Geelong versus GWS was another close one, 101 to 105. GWS to win there, and to finish off the round was a nail-biting draw with North Melbourne and the Brisbane Lions. So it was a great round of AFL, especially those last 5 games were really close. Like, there was only 1 or 2 games this round that was a real blowout game, and I think that just shows the growth of the comp at the moment. Now, we'll look towards next round, and I'll share my tips and who's playing. So we have, kicking us off, GWS and the Hawks. Obviously, I'm a Hawks supporter. I've been going for them all season, and I've been sharing that with you guys on pod. So I think the Hawks will get it done there. We then have Sydney and Carlton. Sydney's in really good form, but I just think Carlton, they're starting to show a little bit of form, and I like what I'm seeing from them, so I'm going to back them, which will be a bit of an upset. We then have Collingwood versus Crows. It's hard to go past Collingwood there, so I'm picking them. We then have GWS versus Freo. I'm backing GWS. I've got big tickets on them this season, and they're going all right at the moment. We got Port versus Geelong. I think the Cats will get it done there. We then have the Dogs versus Essendon. I think the Bombers will polish off the Dogs there. Richmond versus North Melbourne, although North Melbourne showed that they can play some good footy against Brisbane, who's such a tough and strong team. I think Richmond, they're not playing the greatest so far, but we've seen some good things, so I'm going to back Richmond on this one. We then have Brisbane versus Melbourne. I think Brisbane will get the win there. And to finish off the round, we got West Coast versus St Kilda, and I'm going to back the Saints. So that's AFL covered this week. And let's move on to NRL, something I'm bit more down pat, and we'll run through what happened, and yeah, my thoughts on it, how my tips went. Not the greatest, but it is what it is. So let's kick it off. To open the round, we had the Eels versus the Dolphins. It was a 20-16 victory for the Dolphins. I tipped that one, so I'm really happy with that. We then had the Knights versus Titans, and the Titans finally got a win there. It was 20-24, so another very close game. I thought the Knights, after their win after South last week in Magic Round, I thought they were going to be a lot stronger and, well, better. But clearly not. Anyway, we had the Bunnies versus Bronx. I thought, I backed the Bunnies. I thought they would have won last week, so they had bounced back pretty good after a loss to Newcastle. So pretty happy to get that. To see it was a 22-14 victory. To see Latrell Mitchell back, he showed up to play for him. He showed why he's such a crucial player and why the Bunnies need him. He's slotted a 2-point field goal from about 50 metres out. It was quite incredible. He did it. He turned around very casually and acted like nothing happened, and he does that on the regularly. So I think he was just not trying to get the hopes up, and then to finish him off, they scored another try at the end. Now we had the Raiders versus Dogs. I was very upset about this game. Obviously, I had the milk tipped. They're my team. And at halftime, I really, really thought we were going to win that game. It was 20-0, and I was going, you beauty, the Dogs can't come back from this. But they did. 32-20. 32 unanswered points there in the final half, which means no points was scored at one half of the field. So they might need an investigation that needs to go into that at JIO Stadium. I don't know what the go is there, but yeah, there's obviously a problem with one end of the field because no one can score there. You be the judge of that, because yeah, I don't want to touch on this topic anymore. We then had the Dragons versus Wars, another very exciting game. The Wars got the victory, a 14-15 victory, so they got a field goal. Won it that way. I tipped the Wars, so can't complain. And then probably the biggest surprise of the weekend. Both teams would be disappointed, but I think they're both going to take it in stride and it will boost their confidence. It was North Queensland versus Penrith. The Cowboys and the Panthers tied 30-all, so they went through golden point both halves without able to score a point. So I just think it's the first draw of the season, so it shows how tight the comp is right now. Penrith is still 15th at the moment, and Cowboys are starting to climb that ladder and show some form, but they're both going to be very disappointed with not getting the victory there. So, but nonetheless, it was great footy, and I think both teams should take the positives out of that. I know North Queensland would have wanted to get the victory at home, but they showed a lot of strength in that, which was very impressive. We then had the Storm versus Tigers game. It was absolute domination from the Storm. Ryan Papenhuyzen absolutely just shredded them, 64-0. I think we're starting to see the former West Tigers creep back in. Like, we haven't seen that for about a year or two, the domination on that, but Storm just so good. Luckily, I had them tipped. And yeah. So, and to finish off the round, another close game. It was Manly versus Sharks. It was 14-0 at halftime. Manly leveled the score in the second half, and then the Sharks just ran away with it, securing 2 or 3 more tries. But nonetheless, it was a pretty good game. It was a very close game of footy for most of the week, other than the Storm Tigers game, really. I really enjoyed it. My tips finished off 4 out of 8. If you want to be nice to me and give me the draw, it's 5 out of 8. Really similar results to last week, but I'm not in the negatives yet, I guess. 50% rate is pretty ideal, at least. That's a passing grade, in my opinion. So yeah, just a few news on what's going on in the NRL at the moment. We got some that's come out this week, so big news for Origin, especially Queensland supporters. If you heard last week, I put out my team. I came up with a teams list for my extended Origin squad, the 20 players. Unfortunately, Ben Hunt has been ruled out of the Origin Series opener, so a lot of fans are going to be disappointed, including myself. I love seeing Ben Hunt play Origin and to see him miss out at the start of the series. Maybe that puts the rest of his selection in doubt for the rest of the series. Who knows? I love watching Ben Hunt in Origin. He always steps up and comes up with some great plays, especially when we need it most. So it's a bit disappointing seeing that he won't be playing the first game, but hopefully he gets picked in the second and third to finish the series off, and hopefully it's a clean sweep by Queensland. As of this morning, today's Monday, I saw up on Instagram, on Fox League's Instagram, that Jerome Luai's dad has posted an Instagram story which only said, "Get out clause activated," possibly, well, I would say, is referring to the dominating game of the Storm over the Tigers, a 64-0 game. Everyone hasn't really seen where the Tigers sit at the moment. We were all thinking, are they actually a better team this season? Are they not? And now we've seen the Storm absolutely dominate. Is this just a joke? Is Luai's dad just trying to pull all of our legs, have a funny joke? Or is this something deeper? Do we see Luai stick it out for another few years at the Tigers? Or will he try and get out of there and go somewhere else? That's really up for debate. But I was quite surprised to see that. Personally, if it was my son in the NRL and his team lost, I wouldn't be saying the get out clause is activated. I think that's very disappointing to see that, whether it's a joke or not. But yeah, up to you to decide on your opinion on that. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think you go around saying that whether it's a joke or not. Anyway, final news is NRL this week that I have. The Las Vegas 2026, the teams are getting picked, getting announced this week. So we had the Raiders, Waz, Penrith and Sharkies play this year at Las Vegas, which was great. They were all good games of footy. Except maybe if you're a Warriors fan, you would have been a bit disappointed with that. It's a long way to go halfway across the world to watch your team lose, especially like that. Sorry, someone had to say it. Anyway, yeah, it would be really interesting to see what teams get picked. So we've had 8 there already. So another 4 will go over. I would be saying Manly's going over. That's probably my biggest pick, and then maybe one or two of the Queensland teams. We've only seen the Broncos over there, and we didn't have any Queensland teams this year. So we'll see what happens. It'd be very interesting to see. But yeah, drop a comment on what you think. Who is the teams that are going to get to play at Vegas next year? So I'll also go over that next week when the teams do get announced. So just keep your eye out on that. Time to move on to our preview of the next round of NRL. So we got the Knights versus Eels. It is a Knights home game. I think, I don't know what to expect from the Eels. They've got Moses back, so I'm not sure when Lomax is back, but they'll be threatening when they're both in. But I think it's a tricky one, but I'm going to back the Knights, especially being a home game. So tick that there. We then have the Bulldogs versus Roosters. This will be an exciting matchup. We haven't seen the best form of the Roosters yet, just in my opinion. I reckon the Doggies are going to get up here, especially showing their dominance over Canberra. Maybe that's why I'm wearing the glasses this week, so you can't see the tears in my eyes from the Canberra Raiders losing horribly to the Doggies. Anyway, the Dogs are my pick there. We then have the Dolphins versus the Wars. It's a Dolphins home game, so I'm going to pick them. They're quite a strong team, but the Warriors are on such a great run at the moment. It'll be a very close game, but I'm going to back the local team. They're only an hour down the road from me, an hour or two, so I'm going to back the Finns. So Finns up. We then have the Cowboys versus Manly. Another home game for the Cowboys. I'm not 100% on this fact, but I think they're undefeated at home at the moment. A draw is not a defeat, so they've got a good success rate. I'm going to back the Cowboys. It's just the humidity up there. It's their conditions. It's what they train in every day. I think the Sydney boys will get a bit surprised. I think we saw that with the Panthers. So the Cowboys are going to have the advantage over Manly, in my opinion. So I'm backing the Cowboys. We then had the Sharks versus Storm. Sharks have been great so far. I don't think it won't be enough for them to beat the Storm, especially after the Storm absolutely rolled over the Tigers. As I said, 64-0 is massive. So that's going to be a massive confidence booster for the Storm. Maybe if it happens again, a steamroll will finally see Craig Bellamy crack a smile. We'll never see that, will we? But the Sharks have had some outstanding players, especially Will Kennedy at the moment. He's leading the Dally M score at the moment on 29 points. So it could be an upset. I would consider it an upset if the Sharks get up. But I'm going to back the Storm. We then have the Broncos versus Dragons. Broncos back at Suncorp. I'm going to back them. This will be a good game. The Dragons are finally finding some, I guess, momentum and a bit more confidence, I say. Them coming off a loss to the Wars, only losing by a field goal. I think we'll see them start to fire up now towards the end of the season. But I'm backing the Broncos to win that one. They've had 2 rough weeks in a row, so they'll bounce back here and get the win. We then have the Raiders versus Titans again. We only had this game, I think, only 3 weeks ago. So to have them facing off again already is quite surprising. I think the Raiders' confidence might be a little bit low after their matchup against the Doggies, but I know Ricky will be ripping a new one and telling them how they can change up their act and perform. Titans finally got a win after a few rounds, after a few losses, so they'll take a lot of confidence from winning against the Knights last week. But at the moment, I don't think Knights are at the standard they usually would be, so I don't think the Titans played Knights at full strength or at full capacity, one might say. So maybe they'll be a bit confident, and maybe we'll see a repeat of the previous Raiders versus Titans game. But I got to be honest and truthful to my team, so I'm going to back the Milk there. And to finish off the round, we've got Tigers and Rabbitohs. The West Tigers, there's not much to say about them after last week's performance. And the Rabbitohs getting the win over the Bronx and having Latrell Mitchell back and him clearly showing that he's here to show up and play footy. I have to back the Rabbitohs, even though it's a Tigers home game. I'm backing the Rabbitohs here. It'll be exciting, I think. In my opinion, it'll be the closest game of the week, but the Rabbitohs get the win there. Now, in the news of other sports, we had the conclusion of the Trans-Tasman Throwdown in the basketball. The Australian Boomers took the overall series win over the New Zealand Tall Blacks in a 2 out of 2 out of 3 wins. So it was a 3-match series. The Boomers took out 2 of the 3, and the New Zealand Tall Blacks took out the last game, the closing match. In other news, Virat Kohli intends to retire from Test cricket. He's so that's very big news that shocked me when I looked at that. He has been probably one of the best Test cricket players of all time. He goes by King Kohli to most, especially in India. He's an absolute legend. So to hear that news is quite surprising. He is getting a bit older, and he didn't have the best series when he was over in Australia. But yeah, he intends to retire from Test cricket, which is quite a surprise. And now, in other news, back over to Australia, young sprinter Gout says he told Noah Lyles, "I'm running up his ass for sure." He said that on the back page, the Fox Sports back page this week. So he's only 16 or 17, so him calling out the 100-meter Olympic champion is pretty cool. We've got a lot of stocks in him here in Australia, and we're all backing him. He's doing a great job. So, yeah, it's really interesting. He says he gets along with Noah Lyles quite well, but he said he's coming for him, so that's very exciting for us Australians having a quite competitive sprinter in the men's. So that's all the news I've got for this week. Hopefully I can build more on the podcast next week. I hope you like the setup. I'm still looking for a co-host, so if someone wants to put their hand up and have a crack with me, that'll be awesome. Hopefully the video today works and I can get 2 cameras up like last week. It's been a bit of a process, but yeah, new setup, new layout, and it's pretty cool. So I want to talk about one segment I'm going to start next week. It was really inspired off what Matty Johns and his sons do on one of their podcasts. So each week they open up one of the NRL trading cards, a packet of trading cards, and they pick someone that they've got from the cards, and they go, this person's going to be an anytime try scorer. So I believe it's 6 players per packet of cards. So starting next week, I'm going to open up one, and then it's going to be called the try scorer multi-builder. So I'll select 3 of those players to put in a multi for anytime try scorers over the weekend. So yeah, I guess that's my new segment. That'll take up a little bit of time. So I want some feedback on that. If you guys want to suggest any segments at the moment, please reach out. I want to make the viewing and listening experience great for you guys. So yeah, I hope that's all I've got for this week. I know it's another short podcast. It's only about 20 minutes. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Put your tips in the comments. And as always, if that's not what's not sport, cheers, guys.